Southwest Florida, welcome back to another edition of Lee Pitts Live, and we're coming to you from Mount Hermon Ministries. It's the after party. We have had a fantastic experience. Some of you saw us online when it was going on live, and I must say that it went off without a hitch. We had a world-class panel there. You saw in the pre-show, we talked to some of the ministers who were a part of it. Now this is the post-show after the fact. And we'll talk to some of the medical profession, and the person who sort of spearheaded all this and put it together. He's kind of modest about all that, but Pastor Dr. William Glover, the virtual clergy symposium has taken place, and we're owning our community. Pastor Glover, Nadine, and Diane Spears. I want to just thank all of you along with the other people for doing just a superb job.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Pastor Glover, I know this took a lot to put together. Before we even get started, I know people are going to be calling for this again. How would you determine whether or not you would do another one of these before you even decompress?
Well, I'd already started praying about where to go and whether this is a format to be informative and make a difference. And tonight was so utterly successful. And also, the clergy has already demanded we do it again.
Okay, right. Okay. So
we've already selected our next issue, and we've already have a tentative date. And so they give me the assignment to get started on organizing it. So we'll be announcing the second virtual clergy symposium coming very soon. Within the next couple of days, we'll be announcing something.
Okay, excellent. Nadine, is it fair to say that when we were to do something like this that we did today, educating people on the coronavirus in an up close and impersonal way on their cell phones, on their computers, on their pads, that it's more likely to spend more time on specific questions that people need to get answered?
Yes, because it's virtual. Even though we're all on the podium, it's cut against time. I think with the message that we're given, we have enough time to elaborate on the current climate.
All right, give our TV audience your background. Who are you? And what's your title?
I'm Deanie Singh, nurse practitioner, founder of Premier Mobile, that's located right here at Mount Hermon Ministries, where we provide community care. On our mobile clinic, we talk about prevention, we assess, we educate, we diagnose, we treat, and the most important ingredient in all of this is prevention.
You heard me mention to Pastor Glover about doing something like this again, and again and again and again. And my thought about that is that the science continues to change. We need to continue to push the message to keep it in people's faces. Elaborate on what I just said, the importance of that.
Well, with the clergy and the medical, this idea by Dr. Glover that created this is amazing because science is great, but without having the leaders of the community to communicate that to its congregation and to the community to understand the importance and the relevance of science with in a theological point of view.
Faith.
Faith makes more sense than anything else, because who better to preach the substance? But yes, from a science point of view, we understand medicine to what perspective of our discipline, but from the clergy, with his faith base, when he put the word together with science, then synergistically the congregation will accept and be more readily believable in what we're presenting.
Diane, let's get your title, Diane Spears, and where you at?
Diane Spears, director at Lee Memorial Hospital. And also, I forgot to say, I'm the parish nurse here for Mount Hermon Ministry.
Okay, I've seen you around. Now, the sitting up there, being a part of that world-class panel and what we were witnessing, streaming live around the world with this educational forum, what does that do in terms of moving the information and the alertness forward?
You know, it is so important that we had this tonight. Sometimes, I have to be pushed to come before a camera, but I'm so glad because it's helping our people. And it's getting the word out so fast. Massive amount of people are getting this information, this much needed information. So I can't say enough about what happened tonight and how I feel. It's my passion to teach. And wow, I didn't teach just a few hundred people tonight, but perhaps thousands.
Absolutely. We're going to tell people who might have missed this, how they can still go and view the whole symposium. And I think it's something that can be shared and used in other places around to educate their people as well. But you said something that I want to bring to this television show is the gloves.
Oh, yes.
I mean, when you were talking about the gloves, you really seem very passionate about the misconception of people who are wearing gloves and what they think that they are doing. So I want you to take your time right now and talk about the pros and cons of the average person wearing gloves and thinking that they are better off in protecting themselves from the virus.
Because what's happening is that they have the gloves on and they're touching many, many, many things. And they feel like I'm protected. But what they don't realize, as she said before, when you put those gloves and you touch your face and you touch other things, you're really not protected because you just put that in your face. And then not only that, when you're taking your gloves off, there's a way that you take them off so that you do not infect yourself. And they're thinking that I got these gloves on, I don't have to wash my hand. That's not true. So all they're doing is everything they're touching is on the gloves. It's on the glove.
It's just like your hand, essentially.
It's just like your hand. It's on your glove.
And I think you're less likely to wash your hands if you got gloves on. Let me let you say this than me.
You are. Because you feel safe, you are less likely to wash your hand.
And
not only that, now you got that glove on and you perhaps have your mask on. You take that glove hand and you take that mask off and all that you just touch, okay?
Well, you went sister girl on that and you just count at the end, just say, forget all about the gloves. When you say that, does that make other health care providers cringe, or are they saying, thanks for telling, you guys amongst yourselves are talking about that, aren't you?
They know what I'm talking about. Because, see, we're double gloving because when I take off, we double glove sometimes. When we take off one pair that we just been dealing with the patient, dealing with things, now we're taking that off, so we got a clean pair on. And then when we step out that door, we're taking off that glove and we're washing our hands. So they know what I'm talking about.
Okay. Now Pastor Glover, Mount Hermon Ministries, you were able to call on the dream team of ministers. I mean, when we were looking up there, we saw a dream team of ministers, a dream team of healthcare providers who are passionate about our community. And we noticed that all of us are black. I mean, it wasn't like it was a coincidence. You wanted to send a clear, concise message to our community. You wanted to make sure we're laser focused on that. Why is that?
Well, in that intentionality is driven by what has already been stated. That because of the misinformation and because of the underlining pre-existing health conditions that tend to impact our communities, that we're being infected and dying at a much, much higher rate. And that is coupled with what's coming from the echo chambers and other scenarios aren't really speaking specifically to that. We're given the statistic and then, it's moving on. And I got this idea born out of realization is that we have very fine clergy in this community who work together all the time on church-related issues and even sometimes medical issues. We have medical professionals in this community. And what if I brought those clergy and medical professionals together and allow our people to see professionals talk about this in a voice that they understand?
Right.
And I think that's what made this special for me, and I did really have a very good sense of pride about the resources we have in this community.
Yeah, it's just fantastic.
And the difference that we can make when we all come together. And I'm just extremely proud of our healthcare professionals and our clergy.
But in all, I know you're a modest dude and you make things happen. But when you sent me that text on this and say, hey, Lee, we want you to moderate this, and you gave me the high points, I'm like, wow, this is great. And then I started to think, by me even having these types of skills to do this, I was looking at all these skills that I developed to do what I do, it was meant for this moment. Yeah. So things happen for a reason. And then you knowing all the dots to connect was just fantastic. And we got here, everybody up there, and of course, everybody that I saw I had interviewed before over the years, we all were a big family, and we're all concerned about our community. Nadine, I said that to get to your connection with these two right here as a result of all of our triangle, Diane's, and now we have a bus sitting right out there on Martin Luther King Boulevard, and I want to expound on that and let people know it's conveniently located, and they can come to that bus without an appointment, I think you said.
Without an appointment.
Go ahead and expound on Premier Medical Mobile, where it is, and how people right now can connect to you and get their test done. So
previously, Premier Mobile was sitting out on Dr. Glover's Mount Herman parking lot there, 2856 Douglas Avenue, Mondays and Wednesday. But as of June 1st, he has given us permission to go ahead where we're out there 5 days a week, especially with the corona pandemic and, of course, our African American descent being disproportionately affected with this virus. Where else should we be? The utilization of the clinic is without appointment. If you need us, pick up the phone, call us. We are here to serve.
We're going to take a break, come right back. Welcome back. Nadine, I'm going to expound on that question we asked you early on. We'll return to that question. The Premier Mobile bus is right out here in front of Mount Herman Ministries. People can tap into that bus, come there with appointments or without appointments, and actually get tested for the virus.
COVID, yes.
While they're in that bus, they can get other health care needs checked out as well, blood pressure and those types of things along the way as well. So expound on what takes place in that bus and when it's out in front of Mount Herman Ministries on Martin Luther King Boulevard here in Fort Myers.
So first, I just want to thank Dr. Glover for allowing Premier Mobile to be a part of this community and allowing me to do what I do best, and that's serve my community. So on Premier Mobile, prior to Corona, you'd come and you could get a free blood pressure screen, free blood glucose screen, and free HIV, gonorrhea, chlamydia, all the STD checks. Since the corona, we had closed down like everybody else for approximately 2 months. And then since the reopening, we have partnered with the AIDS Foundation as well as LabCorp, and I'm able to do testing right here at Mount Herman. The advice is for the patients to wear a mask when they're coming, especially if they know they have been exposed or they're having any sort of symptoms. But if they're driving, we want them to remain in their car and stay there while we collect the necessary data that we need to have the test run properly. The test is given anywhere from 24 to 72 hours. LabCorp will have that result for me. If they want a quick turnaround, I'll give them a prescription, send them to Lee Convenient Care, and in 24 hours, I will have the results for them.
So the test is in the car.
Right. I swab their nose from the car. They sit in the car and they pull their mask down. I go in with my Q-tip. I reach for, I don't even have to go far back. I have the anterior swab and the posterior nasopharyngeal swab. So I have both.
If you don't have a car, can you just walk up to the bus?
If you don't have a car, we put you to sit outside the tent, and we're all dressed in our proper protective gear. We have our mask, our goggles, our face shield, her N95 mask, our hair covering, and our gowns.
Dates and times you can come and get tested.
From 9 until 2, testing permitted, and the weather.
Every day.
From Monday through Fridays.
Okay, 9 to 2.
9 to 2. Mm-hmm.
If everything, God willing, and the creek don't rise.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I think that's the terminology. That's the terminology. Well,
we're also doing labs on Premier Mobile. So for people who don't have insurance and they don't want to go to LabCorp or to Quest Diagnostic because they can't afford the price, they could come to Premier Mobile for unbelievable pricing. That will include like a CBC, a lipid panel, their cholesterol check, thyroid check, any lab you could possibly think of that you need, and you don't have insurance or you can't afford it somewhere else, you could come to Premier Mobile, and I trust we will beat any other prices.
Diane, I see you shaking your head just like this is a heaven sent situation for our community to have that type of convenience and to have a partnership with the church and have the land right out there. Are we getting volume? Are people using it right now?
You know, she would have to answer that, but I know I refer people to her.
Okay. Are we getting people?
She has. Well, we had 20 testing today for COVID. This is our largest. We started on June 1st, and today we had 20 people. We even had to stop at one point because it became too much with the weather. Problem, right? So that's a good problem to have. So, and I had to even call LabCorp and tell them, hey, we're running out of tests, which they promised me they'll have tests delivered to site tomorrow morning.
So, Pastor Glover, based on your experience here in the community, when we have healthcare providers conveniently located, is there a certain shield that people drop, comfort level they have when they can go in the community and get those types of services?
Well, I think so, because you've removed barriers. You've removed transportation barriers, you've removed economic barriers, and you've moved cultural barriers, because you're dealing with, someone who not only has the training and the professional, but they understand your culture, and that helps with the language barrier. So many obstacles are overcome by having those services that Ms. Nadine offers through the mobile clinic in the community and specifically on the campus here.
Now, if I just come up, I just come up to you, what do I need to give you to get my test at the bus?
So the labs that we draw from the bus is through Access Medical. They have a fee for that. And so that fee will give to you at the bus. Now, the mobile clinic does charge a $75 fee, but you see the community that we're at. Last week, we saw 40 patients on that mobile when we came outside for the first time. When we did the math and we had our meeting, only 5% of those people paid. So most of our service are free. The COVID testing that we're currently doing was made available through the AIDS Foundation with Amy Pinter and the AIDS Foundation here on McGregor, as well as LabCorp. So that was a grant that we get, so we were able to do that. I was able to procure a medical assistant, as well as I now have a nurse practitioner and physician assistant volunteer, and myself, who was the medical provider. And so since we put the sign out there and since we've been back, we've had countless amount of people telling us that they have missed their doctor's appointment because, one, they have no insurance. Two, they can't afford the charge of the regular primary practice. They can't get their refill because the visit is anywhere from $180 to $360, and the lab makes the fees exponentially on the table for them to manage, especially now with them being laid off because of COVID, losing their job, insurance affected. They already had no money. You don't want them to be able to make a decision whether to put food on their table or take their blood pressure medicine. And what Premier Mobile does alongside with Mount Hermon Ministry is provide that relief, bridge that gap to make it affordable. And if they don't have it to pay, we still we turn no one away. We turn none of anybody who comes to Premier Mobile. There are simple forms that they fill out. And if they can't afford to pay for their treatment for that day, they fill the form out and the service is free.
One thing about you is this is personal.
Oh, yes, it is.
Even though you science person, medical and all that, you have a personal, and we need people who take this personally in our community, who really care about our community. Talk about that and how that motivates you.
Just this week, I had a gentleman, not this week, but last week, during the pandemic, he saw the bus and he called and he says, hey, I want to do a HIV test, he says. I said, we'll be back out on the 1st. Well, he came that Tuesday, and he mature gentleman, but looked younger than his stated age. And he came to get tested. I put the blood pressure cuff on his arm, and I can't tell you what his blood pressure was, but the blood pressure was ridiculous. In so doing, he began to tell me how he used to take blood pressure medicine, but he no longer takes it. As I began to tell him the reason why he should take it, the involvement of this a heart failure, possibility of having a stroke, possibility of kidney failure, and all the other stuff, erectile dysfunction, all the things that could possibly go wrong, which I tell him you possibly could be experiencing because of lack of treatment. This blood pressure was 200 over 100 and something, and he has not taken, plus he had a 6-year-old daughter in his advanced age. And when I began to explain, I saw him get teary-eyed and said no one had explained it to him the way I have. The next day, he had the medicine home. He started taking it. I was able to bring him into the clinic nicely, only from just wanting an HIV test because he felt that he may have been exposed. However, from just having that free HIV test, he now becomes a patient of the clinic, and he's now religiously calling me, telling me what the blood pressure is, telling me he's up on it. He even came back and have his lab done, which he's coming back for a follow-up. So it's not just him. I've had multiple, and I'm so happy and proud of our African-American men. Whether their motive for coming on the clinic was different, I don't care. The fact that they're understanding that treatment is there, it's available, and they're becoming to understand the importance, because indeed, hypertension is a silent killer, and without getting tested and screened for it, you can't know. It doesn't have a telltale sign. It's not like COVID that gives you a fever and a cough. You understand? You get up one morning, your left side is numb, your right side is numb, you have facial paralysis, or you just drop down to the ground and then nothing more of you. And sometimes, if you're lucky enough, you might die, but the other thing is it may leave you paralyzed with hemiparesis, with one side of your body completely gone, and you can't be able to do anything for yourself, meaning you need someone to wipe your butt. And especially for us Black people, how proud we are, and we know to go live a life where we have to dependent on someone to cater to our activities of daily living. That's no living for us. So it's important for us to take the necessary precaution, getting screens, getting checked, especially if you're overweight, making sure that you know what your hemoglobin A1C is, that you're not diabetic, and that we can treat, teach, assess, educate, and get everybody in the community involved. The access is there. There is now a bridge. There's no longer, the gap is there, but there's now that bridge, the linkage between Mount Hermon and Premier Mobile right here in the community to make it happen, and there's no excuse.
Diane, I saw you just shaking your head over there because she's hitting on things that you've been hitting on for I'm not going to say over 30 years. I'll just say over 5 years. So, but go ahead and the hypertension in particular. It's one of the underlying symptoms. But you, Mount Hermon Ministry, over the years, just the educational component has been focusing on African Americans and those underlying symptoms now that are really like on the front page now in terms of the COVID virus. Go ahead.
You know what? I really do appreciate Deanie. I call her Nadine.
Yeah, I call her Nadine. She got so many names. Go ahead.
I know.
It's personal for her.
I know it is. Then the first time I met her, and she shared her story with me, and I remember sitting in my car thinking, what am I going to do? You know, she has a lot to offer, and the only thing that came to my mind is Mount Hermon. Mm-hmm. I got to connect her to Mount Hermon. Now, you know, you connected us.
But I wish check this out. Let's talk about this on TV. I try to be in the background. You've been made. Nadine knows this, right? But that's okay. That's okay. Check this out. Go ahead. I'm gonna go ahead and say some stuff out loud.
And I thought I can think of anything. I said, "So God, what am I going to do?" And my hermit was the only thing I think of. Culture Glover. Those two people need to be together.
Okay, so check this out.
They need to be together.
Let me say this. I don't say this out loud. I just tell Nadine, just keep me in the background. So I'm talking to Nadine, right? I said, okay, Nadine. She told me the story. So I go, okay, you need to connect to Diane Spears, right? And I said, now Diane Spears is going to connect you to Mount Hermon.
Yes,
you
you
watch.
did. You did.
I didn't tell. You don't know this. First Lady doesn't know this. Father Glover doesn't know this. But I know all the pieces. So I said, let's go step by step. Get Diane to come to the bus. Diane to take it from there. And now, years later, I see everybody. I said, soon as First Lady here, we can have a bus. And they do a lot of health care. And Pastor Glover here, then everybody can figure out a way to make it work. Now I'm right up here. I see the bus out there, and I'm quietly in the background saying it all worked out. Because
the deal was done. I was the last one to be brought to the table.
Right.
So.
Right. Good.
Now I'm getting all the dots. I didn't know. Right. I'm 4 dots removed, and come to think you all made it seem like it was my decision. It was.
I'll just say.
That's exactly.
And it happened. And the beautiful thing is the main thing I want to make of this is about community. And I'm going to share this with people on television. I don't really get off. I just ask a lot of questions. So when I'm hosting a television show, and I do this in my life as well, I see myself I see everything as a full course meal. Okay. And in that full course meal, the main thing in the full course meal is the entree. Got it? Now, so when people pull up to the meal, they're all about where's the entree. So I see people like yourselves as the entree. You're the main thing that makes things happen. Same thing the way I host a television show. I see myself as the plate. The plate is important to the entree, but nobody notices the plate. After the entree is served, people satisfied, the plate goes back into the dishwasher, gets cleaned up again, comes back and deliver another entree. So the guests that they see on my show, everybody, that's the entree. That's that guy. Who's that guy in the background? That's that plate. And so I get a lot of pleasure out of it. I told you on the phone, I said, all I want to do is hear about when things start happening. Just text me the good news. Oh, I met with Diane, and she's going to have another meeting with me. Oh, I met with First Lady Glover. Oh,
half the time he says, get to the point.
Yeah, I'll say, hit me with the good news. Hit me with the good news. Now I can move on to another meal to try to serve up and help our community out and stay in the background. So this is my first time saying it out loud. I think you kind of knew I was in the background some kind of way, or you never
Actually,
knew.
No.
Yeah, I stayed in the background.
A couple of weeks ago.
Right.
And you mentioned it when you filmed here.
Yeah.
Right.
You mentioned that you know about the connection, this, that, that. And I was like, I knew about this and that.
I said it off air though. I didn't say it on air.
No,
right?
you didn't.
Right.
You didn't. It was off air.
So that's just my style. And then I think I text you, Diane, and say expect a call from her.
Yeah, you did.
Then I'm on because all I needed to get the pieces together and look at the success that we're having now. Everybody is working together. We did not have Community Fund Day this year. Hopefully we'll have it next year. But this right here was a good substitute for Community Fund Day. Would you say, Dr. Glover, is that kind of a part of that as well?
Well, I don't know that
This
there is a substitute for Community Fund Day.
Under the current state of education.
But given, again, this is a very fluid situation with COVID-19. And this was needed for now. And I think tonight exceeded expectations, and we filled the vacuum in getting, as I said earlier, information from to people of African descent. I like that phrase tonight rather than African Americans.
Right.
People of African descent, just because of the uniqueness of how this is impacting all of us. So yeah, I think it was a huge event. You mentioned Community Fund Day, and it's just given us more time to plan next year's event that it exceeds expectation every year, but the comeback is just it's gonna be off the charts.
Off the chart. Diane, the big hospital. When I look at you, I know you don't you carry yourself more like a like the
community,
the country doctor who comes around with the little bag. And in Western movies, you're accessible. When I say country doctor, more accessible. people can touch you. You're high ranking, but you're part of the people. You're the people's healthcare provider. But we know you got that big multi-billion-dollar hospital concern behind you. When you can bring the resources of that to our community, what does that do for everybody in terms of moving healthcare forward?
There's some more to be done. And I want to go back to the mogul. It's closing a gap for us.
Mm-hmm.
Because, when we have a health fair and people are with hypertension, diabetes, now the hospital that I work for, they will see the patient. They make an appointment. But that appointment may take a couple of weeks. And sometimes patients can't wait a couple of weeks. And for me to be able to refer them to the Premier Bus, that's awesome. I'm praying that there be a greater connection for Premier with Lee Healthcare, because that truly closes a gap. When a person leaves a hospital and it's going to be a couple of weeks or 3 weeks before they can see a physician, they need to see someone in between to get that teaching, to make sure that they're stable, to make sure that they don't get readmitted into the hospital. You see, that's a whole nother story, a whole nother thing that we're on, readmission to the hospital before the 30 days. Someone like her can stop that.
Mm-hmm.
So we still have some work to do to get her truly connected. Okay. They respect her and see her out here, but it has to be something we have to keep
working on that. Now, Nadine, you said something about follow-up care or something like that. So if they come to the bus, you can't be like a hospital or follow-up kind of. Are you the follow-up person, or they're so bad you refer them into the clinic or the hospital? How does that work?
So if they leave the hospital and they need follow-up, they certainly can come to Premier Mobile for follow-up care. For example, when you go to the hospital, they only discharge you with 30 days worth of medication, sometimes less than that. And you need to refill those medication, especially if it's someone who has just been recently diagnosed with heart failure or whatever the ailment may have been. And they now get discharged with 30 days of, say, for example, Lasix. And they didn't have an established cardiology, or they didn't have insurance to pay for the subspecialty of the cardiologist, and so they need to have that Lasix refilled so they don't become build up with fluid again, to avoid the edema coming into their legs. Because when that Lasix runs out for that 30 day, then they start retaining again, and if they don't have access to a cardiology or a provider, they're going to end up back into that hospital. Premier Mobile can be that gap. You come to Premier Mobile with your follow-up documents from the hospital, where we see what they have done for you, treated you for, and we continue that treatment until you get established with cardiology, or you could transition to me as your primary provider, and I can take care of you.
Really?
Yes.
Okay. Well, let's go back to the clergy. The clergy, healthcare, COVID-19, where we are right now. Sort of summarize as we wrap this up, Pastor Glover, where we are right now as it relates to Mount Hermon Ministry and your partners around here in terms of how you're approaching groups getting together. Right now, you're staying away from that?
In terms of the context of our own church?
Yes.
Yes, we're not encouraging any gatherings. We're encouraging, of course, we're live streaming with the worship, ministry meetings, leadership meetings. We're encouraging all of that to be done virtually. And just finding alternative ways to get the ministry business done. I think the only group, and they're doing it infrequently, just enough to be able to kind of stay rehearsed, would be the music ministry, because they're ministering on Sundays here with me with the media team.
Mm-hmm. Summarize how you felt about tonight as we wrap up the virtual clergy symposium and what you hope people took from it.
I thought tonight was amazing. It hit all of the earmarks that I had set in terms of bringing leading clergy voices from our community together for a commonality of message, and that is to bridge the gap between faith and science, and encourage people to listen to the science, and that is an expression of your faith. It's being wise. Putting the display of medical talent on that's in our community, and allowing those voices to be heard, and sharing that information in our own language was highly successful. And then the audience, the live stream audience participation, represented by the questions that they were sending in. So it hit all the markers that I set. So I'm very satisfied. I'm very proud.
Diane, right now is no time to relax. Stay alert. What should people look at what's the source that people should continue to listen to as it relates to the COVID virus?
Again, to the health professional. The COVID virus, for some reasons, it's got connected politically. Listen to your health professionals. They know CDC, World Health Organization. Listen to what we're saying. Pastor made a good example tonight. He's gauging, open the church, watching what the hospital do. Now we open up a little bit of visitation, a little bit of visitation, but not full, and not to the COVID units. Can they come to? So you gotta be wise and follow people who are doing the research on this very much, and listen to what we're saying. Wear your mask. I know people get tired of saying it. Wear your mask. Social distance. Wash your hand. Yeah, wear your mask to protect other people.
I think Lee Health provides some information on their website as well, right?
They do. We have a lot of information.
Current update. Nadine, how can people get in touch with you? Is there a website, Facebook page, phone number?
Facebook, of course. Deanie Singh, Premier Mobile 239-222-1829, and of course Mount Hermon. Once you Google Mount Hermon Ministry, you could always find the mobile out front in the parking lot at 2856 Douglas Avenue from 9 until 3.
Okay.
From Monday through Friday.
Well, it's been a pleasure having everybody on the show. My camera guy said we've wrapped up. All right, thank you.
Lee Pitts Live is a Lee Pitts Enterprise production.
Hello, Southwest Florida. Thanks for watching Lee Pitts Live. Of course, I'm Lee Pitts. I hope you enjoy that particular show. But you can always catch us here on YouTube. Just click on the subscribe button down there. That way you can get your Lee Pitts Live on demand when you want it and how you want it. We also encourage you to watch our show on Fox 4 and connect with us on all our social media platforms. Just type in Lee Pitts Live.